This is the file for the application that we developed based on the sample code that we downloaded from Facebook. It already contains the keys that we'll need, and we downloaded the files for the PHP interface, such as Facebook.php, and I showed you how to change the structure of the files so that instead of having all of the files, the index.php file that we downloaded from Facebook and the files in the PHP folder. So instead of having them in one folder, we've split them up, which is the standard way in which people are developing their Facebook applications, so that this folder, the downloadable PHP files, can be substituted with new versions of it, and you don't have to mingle the Facebook files with your own application files. Before moving on, I'm going to modify this file and the file structure into the structure that most of us use for applications, even very large Facebook applications. So what I'm going to do is to take my JFBirds directory, which is where everything is located now in these two folders, and I'm going to make a change to it. And the first change that I'm going to make is a change that you will see in many of the example applications for Facebook. Here in this file, I have the requirement for the interface file, facebook.php, and I have my keys. And the first line in this file, as in many of the Facebook application files, is that I create a new Facebook object using those two keys, and then I use that object in the rest of the file. And what we often do is to construct a file, and it's often called config.php, and this is a file that will live inside my application folder, and it will contain this common code. So I'm going to move this shell over here, and I'm going to open config.php, and you'll see that what it is just a simple shell here, and it's going to have the two keys. So what I'm going to have here is I'm going to copy this key in, and I'm going to copy this key in, and now I can get rid of those two lines of code. I no longer need them because I've got them over here. I also am going to eventually need a canvas page, and I'll leave this line in. I'll comment it out because I'm not going to use it just yet, but I will have a line of code that gets me to my canvas page from the config.php file. Now there's one other line of code here. As I said, I don't need the canvas page just yet, and you can see there's another require here, and it's a file called myconnection.php. And again, we're not going to need it right now, but let me show you what it is, because you may need it at some point in the future. It's inside a folder called connections. And I'll drag that over here, and you'll see here's myconnection.php. And what this is a file that contains the includes that I need to connect to an external MySQL database. And once I have declared these variables here with the IP address of the host, my username, my password, and so forth, similarly to the keys in my config.php file, I now have these two files here, config.php, with my keys and the name of my application. Everything is here, and if I want to move the entire application to another environment, this is all that I need to change, because all of the files in my application will include config.php. In addition, what I've got up here in the connections folder is a file containing the passwords and the instructions that I need to connect to an external MySQL database. And the reason I've put this is in an external file is so that if I have a system that consists of a MySQL database, a Facebook application, and another application, perhaps a traditional web-based application that also needs to get to the database, what I can do is inside one folder, I could have another folder, which might be, let's say, traditional development. And now I've got a folder structure where I have up here my connections to the MySQL database. Here in config.php, I have anything that I need to connect to Facebook. And here I might have inside this folder another config.php file that gives me anything that I need to connect to the environment here. And both from here and from the app folder, I'm coming to the connections folder, and I will pick up the connection to the MySQL database. So this is the overall folder structure that we tend to use, and it's pretty hard to break because you can use a very large application. You can incorporate a MySQL database, and you can incorporate a traditional application that uses the MySQL database, and your Facebook application and your traditional application can communicate with one another through the MySQL database. So this is the file structure that I normally use for developing applications. Some of them aren't Facebook applications, and in that case I won't have this folder and I won't have the PHP folder.